So to create file where you don't have to, have like a really long Photoshop file, but it's still kind of sort of like a seamless um, background, what I'm going to do is start off with our resolution. I can't remember if you're working with 1920 by 1080 or 1280 by 720, but either way, that's high definition widescreen format. So what I'm going to do is just create one. This is going to be our reference image. And then in it, I'm just going to create my background element. So I'm just going to recreate that very quickly. I hope it's very quickly. Um, let's do gradient tool this time. Go from um, light green, light blue. I'll make it a little bit fancy with the clouds. Um, whoops. Okay, something like that. And then we're going to um, hit this. Okay, I'm going to rasterize the layer because if you don't rasterize the layer, you're going to have issues. I don't like the new gradient fill tool either. I don't like the way Photoshop changed a bunch of stuff that's not really fun to deal with. Because it makes it actually, it used to be like a one-click thing, and now it's like a click this and then do that kind of thing. And I'm not really happy with those upgrades. It's like they're making it harder to work with Photoshop so that you'll start relying on the AI tools that Photoshop is about to introduce. All right, I'm going to take my paintbrush now, and all I'm going to do is draw my grass. I'm basically making um, the same background, but I'm showing you, or hopefully I'm showing you all, how to um, really work with creating a smaller file, um, but also showing you all how to go about doing that so you can create a smaller file. So that gradient fill is my background. I'll call it sky, SKY, BG sky. New layer, that's going to be my FG for foreground, grass. And that's just going to be my grass here. And I'm just going to paint grass, grass, grass. Um, and then I'm going to I'm actually going to bring in, because I don't feel like recreating this, I'm going to bring in my path. And it's named path. Thank you. All right, that's my path. And my midground, yeah, I don't feel like recreating that either. So I'll take my midground and put it between the path and the sky. I'm actually going to shrink it a little bit too. So it can be like that. And then finally, I'm actually not going to recreate clouds. So I'll bring in my clouds. Clouds can be, um, well, they can be in front of the midground. And I'm also going to shrink my clouds so that it'll all fit in the document. And I am going to recreate my mountains because my mountains, that's one of the things I want to tell you all about and why I'm recreating them. I'm going to call this bar ground mountains. And with the mountains, all I'm going to do is just create something using using the paintbrush tool. And that's how I created that other mountain there. So paintbrush, go to my brush settings, I'll just bring up some kind of texture here, textured brush. Let's go with that. Spacing, shape dynamics is okay. No scattering. Color dynamics. Let's turn this up. Turn this up. Turn that up. Okay, something like that. And now what I'm going to do is just kind of create um, say more like hills far away than mountains, but whoops, you get the point. And I'll just cover that up. All right, so I'm going to save this as, let's call it new background. All right, so there's a couple of issues with this, which is that because I copied and pasted from other places, if I select um, like this thing is really long still. So what I'm going to do, this is not something you necessarily have to do. I'm just going to run a crop through all the images so it'll crop out everything outside of it that I imported. You all, if you're creating this from scratch, you can do this actually just to make sure that there's nothing outside of your document. All right, so now if I bring this in and start animating it as a background, watch what happens. Using what I'm about to show you now, animating a background using the distort, what is it? The distort offset function. But before I do that, let me actually bring in the work. So new background, I'm bringing it in as composition, retain layer sizes, hit import. Merge layer styles into footage. Yeah, that's fine because we don't have any number layer styles. So this is my new background. Now, what I can do is use this now instead of like, because I don't have extra, this is it. This is all you see. Here's my grass. So there's no extra, so I can't scroll it endlessly. But what I could do is type in under effects and preset, offset, OFFSET. And if I use the, it's going to be under distort offset. If I use that offset function, what I could essentially do is with the offset function, this under my effects control here or here, either one, I can basically scroll this forever and ever and ever. Basically what it does is it loops whatever what was at the edge of the screen. So for the grass, because the grass is so randomized, it works beautifully. You can't see the edge. I'm going to reset this. You can't see where it starts and where it ends because the grass is pretty random. However, if we apply the same thing, oh, let me do the clouds too. I'm going to apply the offset to the clouds and we'll bring it up here. Now I have my clouds and I can basically, let's just keyframe this. My composition is too short. It needs to be something like 30 seconds, just so you all can see the full effect. And I need to make my layers longer, up to 30 seconds. So hold on, select them all, hold on Shift, click the end and drag it all the way to the timeline, end of the timeline. So here's my clouds, and I can basically, we'll have like 6 seconds of clouds. Let's see, this way, if we go negative number, it's going to go to our left. So I'll do something like negative 600. Now there's a problem with this. You can see the obvious problem. It clips away, and that's because it basically is going to be the size of your layer. So if you want to make this, a little bit longer so it doesn't clip so much, something like that. But basically now we have endless amounts of clouds. And the closer they are together, the faster they'll move. And then they'll stop because the number stopped. Um, but we can continue to move them. Maybe they stop and then they slow down. I don't know. It's up to you. You can apply easing to them. So here I have my grass that's going to be, oh, I don't have my grass. Did I get rid of it? No, I didn't even add anything to it. So here I have my grass, and it's using this now to just basically match the speed of your person walking. So you could do that to the grass because the grass, we'll do a big negative number like 1200. Oops. Um, negative 1200. There we go. Now that grass is going to move really fast. Oh, no, it's not because I keyframed both of them. Here we go. All right, so now that grass is going to move really fast. How did I rotate my grass? Probably pushed something by mistake. See that little edge right there? I'm like, why am I seeing that? Okay, 0. There we go. All right, so the grass, because it's pretty randomized, we don't see the edge, but we did see it with this, but we managed to stretch it out, and that solved that. However, things like your mountain and your background and the path, those are things that we have to kind of worry about. So if we have the path, and unfortunately with this way, you cannot parent it because it just won't work like that. You have to apply the offset. But the good news is if you want like the foreground grass to follow the path or the path to follow the foreground grass, instead of parenting, you just punch in literally the same numbers, and it'll work. So with the path, I'm going to go under effects and I'm going to punch in 200 over there. All right. And that's my keyframe. And then here for this part, hold down shift, get to this keyframe. I'm going to punch in negative 1200 on this side. So now the path will follow, but you'll notice one thing, or maybe you won't, but I'll notice it. You'll see here, oh, it's pretty seamless. That's weird. No, here it is. You'll see here that there's a seam. See that? We need to take care of this in Photoshop. And we're going to do that with this and the mountain as well. So how do we take care of those things so that they can be seamless so that we don't see an obvious seam, straight line in our artwork? Now, if I do the middle ground here and apply the offset to that, and I'm just going to use this just because it's going to be quicker. Shift that a little bit. Remember that this doesn't move as fast, so if we're going negative 1200, this one can probably go something like negative, I don't know, 500, something around there. So it'll be like this. Nope, negative 500 is too high. Let's try something like that. There we go. But we have we have the seam here as well. And we're going to get the seam in the mountains too, obviously. So how do we solve that? Go back to Photoshop and we're going to take care of first the path itself. So here's the path. And what we're going to do is go to filter, other, offset, and we basically want to offset horizontally by half. So half of the pixel. So if we know our image size is 1920, the width is 1920, half of 1920 is 1920 divided by 2, 960. So we're going to go with the layer selected, filter, other, offset. I'm going to punch in 1960. That offset is right in the middle. And what I'm going to do now is zoom right into it. And basically, I'm going to control click on the thumbnail. So just that path is selected, nothing else. And after I can, and what that allows me to do is contain my marks within this image and not outside. So what I'm going to do now is take my spot healing brush. This usually works pretty well, and just kind of go over it so that I get rid of some of that. All we're doing is kind of creating that illusion. If the spot healing tool doesn't work really well, we're going to use the healing brush tool, where if you hold down Alt, just like the clone tool, grab like samples from other areas of the rock, and you basically clone them over. And essentially, the trick is to kind of create something that is um, not um, that doesn't show that obvious edge. And you want to click, this is a bad example. You need something with like more um, samples. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. But this will work for the purposes of just kind of showing you all. You can do that, and then also kind of the clone stamp tool just to clone areas from other side. Clone stamp tool works better than the healing brush tool. You can clone over certain areas. The key point is to just grab samples from other areas of the image. So if I'm working like this, I'm just going to sample. Like, I can't even tell anymore where it is. Oh, there it is, right there. So I'm just going to grab some samples from other areas of the document and just kind of go over it. All right, so now I'm going to save this, and it's going to reload in After Effects. And now you can't see the obvious edge, because what we did was basically offset and then fill in that gap. I'm going to do the same thing with that midground. And the reason I'm turning all the other things off is because I just don't want it to get in the way. So we're going to go with the midground selected. I'm going to go filter, other, offset, and we want to offset by 960. That's fine. That's the middle. And we're going to do the same thing. Take the clone stamp tool this time, which works a little bit better in my opinion of this. And then just kind of go over, this area, clone this area a little bit, just in case we see that bottom. Clone over this area here. Just clone over all the areas you need to create. I need a harder brush too. So I'm gonna right mouse, turn my hardness up, and to match the rest of the scenery. All right, that's it. And then we can turn on the other layers back on, save. And if I go to After Effects, it's gonna straighten it up. And now we have something that just goes forever, never, never. That's seamless. Now what to do about that mountain? Same thing. We're just gonna go to the mountain here. Control click. Actually, we don't need to control click because I don't want to keep it in the boundary, because we actually have to erase some areas and add some areas. So, but first thing I'm going to do is filter, other, offset. It's also right here, whatever last filter you used, you can do it like that. Actually, this offset is not bad. So what I'm going to do is just add to this mountain. There we go. Just something that's seamless, so that we don't notice the obvious like, seams. Sometimes you can also go offset again and change that to 0 so that it goes back to the original before we changed it to have that number. So let it update. And now the mountain, if we add, hey, where's my mountain? There we go. If we add offset to the mountain, we can also, so it starts here, the mountain's gonna stop right there. It's not gonna move that much, just enough. Notice my artwork here, the mountain, something is leaking through. What I'm gonna do is just kind of take care of that. Instead of fixing it like I should, I'm just gonna move this up. Actually, that won't work either, so I'm just gonna make this longer. There we go. That's a cheat fix. But now I can, I basically have an endless scrolling thing, and it's just a matter of that shift to center, keyframing that instead of the position to move with your character. So if I want to, let's go to my walk cycle real quick. Actually, yeah, walk cycle. Let's go to my walk cycle. Uh, that's not the one I wanted. I wanted this one. I'm just going to copy this over um, and paste it. I don't know if the expression is still on there. Put him in front of the path, scale him down, adjust the movement. So now if we, oh, he stops right there. So we're going to stop him right there. And then I'll take the idle. Um, I thought it was going to copy the expression as well, but it didn't. So I'll take the idle, put him right there. Actually, I'm going to overlap it, and I just want to show you all how to put it together. I'm just going to overlap it. I scaled the original to 48%, so the one that I just imported, if I scale it down to 48%, provided that you did everything correctly, nothing will change, and you just got to match up the shoulders a little bit, like that. And so now I have my walk cycle and my idle cycle. And then, you do more of whatever you need to do and have your offsets match to the artwork. So if I need to move him, you want to test it too. All right, that is much better as far as syncing. The initial one, it looks like it's sliding. But this one where it's slower, it's much better. And like I said, if you have like the path and the foreground as two different layers, it's not a big deal because what you're going to do essentially is take your offsets for this and plug it to the same number. So negative 1200 is where it starts. This should be negative 1200. And then here where it ends, that is this number. I'm just going to click it, copy, Control C, and click it here, Control V. Paste and then enter. So that'll move the same way. If you want to avoid that, you can keep the foreground and the path the same layer. That way, in Photoshop, that way you don't have to deal with it. But like I said, parenting won't work in the offset function. And then it's a matter of, again, making the other parts move. So I'm going to go here. Let's do offset. Click on the diamond to add that initial keyframe, and then move this along. Maybe, let's see. There we go. That's not bad. And then the mountains. The mountains, they're not going to move as much. So I'm just going to do it from here. Oop, I can't do it from here. I got to add the keyframe, and then mountain's going to move just a smidge. There we go. All right, so that's basically how you would finish your project, or at least, some ways of finishing your project. Um, any questions?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, will you be going over the submissions from tonight so that we can get like criticisms on what needs to be fixed before we finish the project, or no?
You mean the walk cycle submissions?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can do that. Let's go ahead and do that. Let me just finish this. I'm having a little bit too much fun with this. All right, so there we go. And okay. Okay. All right, let's go over that.